ready? Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome. It is, I think is it Gimel Kislev or Daled Kislev? Gimel. It's Deborah's birthday. Oh, wow. Oh. It's your birthday, Esav? Happy birthday! Wow, Gimel Kislev. Wait, it's your birthday too, you're saying? Both of you?
It's my non-Jew birthday.
It's your non-Jew birthday?
Yeah, Loazi.
So we've got like a lot of birthday energy, which is amazing.
You know, today's National Toilet Day. Nice.
Happy birthday, Deborah.
Because my name is Batya, and it's like I'm Batya, which is bathroom. Oh, connection.
It's not a connection at all.
It is November 17th?
19th.
Maybe. Okay, see, 19th. We're above time here in SWAT and space. 2020, I'm Reva Emuna, and we're in SWAT. Behind you are the amazing mountains of Meron and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So this is an absolutely magical and mystical moment in coming together. We in our group often we take a moment to breathe and to remember that we're a connection of a body and a soul. Sometimes we move and act throughout the day in a kind of state of semi-disconnection, forgetting that we have a body or forgetting that our soul is illuminating our body. And also to take a moment to be here, to feel, and those of you who are watching, whenever you're watching on YouTube or on Zoom, again, receiving, this is something that I've been receiving so much from Esther's class, more and more and more to still ourselves a little, to make some space. A good way of doing that is through breathing. And being open to receive the wisdom that is being offered and the revelation that's being offered in this moment. So that includes who you're sitting next to, who you're sitting across from, the whole kind of coming together of space and time and whatever is happening within our own self, and then in connection with other people in the same space and time and what's happening within them. So all of this is a perfect wisdom moment for each person to get the next piece of the unfolding of their story and what they need to know, what they need to receive. Thank you, Esther. This is changing my life in a very real way. So I wanted to begin by saying that it is the yortzeit of Jody's father. And she asked that this learning be for the elevation of his soul. I will look up his name. I closed my phone already. His name is Yosef, but...
Moshe Halevi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yosef ben Moshe Halevi, Jody Sugar's father. May his neshama have an aliyah. May his neshama have great nachas, true divine conscious bliss. From this shared light and Torah learning, and please close. Okay. So, and then I would like to also invite the Shekhinah Kuchabrichu into this space, because I've actually been preparing this shiur for at least 2 weeks, and my intention in the shiur always is that the wisdom that we're receiving nurture and nourish us in such a way that it doesn't stay something cool and academic and interesting, but that it actually gives us strength and life force and light and wisdom and revelation in a way that we can apply it into the unfolding revelation of our lives. So it's a little tricky with this class because it's so interesting, and I was kind of like, but what's the takeaway? So I don't know. So we're just setting the intention that Hashem knows, and that's okay. Remember that we've been building our Parsha map, and happy birthday, Devorah. We love you. And it's your Hebrew or English? Hebrew too? Oh, wow. What's your full name? Eila Shira? Eila Shira Bat Devorah. Shirat Devorah. Oh, wow. And it's Batya's Luazi birthday, so we have a lot of birthday energy. Okay, so there's a lot. So we're just we're gonna enter the Pardes, B'ezrat Hashem, always with our Kavanah. Again, so much that I'm receiving through Esther's teachings that come from Rabbi Akiva, which is that our intention always is to enter the learning or the elevated states of consciousness with peace, meaning that our intention is healing and harmony and connection, and to exit in peace. So to receive whatever light and wisdom is being offered in a way that, again, leaves us with a sense of wholeness and with a sense of connection and balance and integration, especially in our mind and also of our body and soul. Okay, so today's topic is hair, and the other extreme, baldness, and everything in between. And of course, because the word for hair shows up for the first time ever in this week's Parsha. Yeah. And it's of course in connection to Esav being hairy. But the beautiful thing is that we've learned and we've spoken about many times, the first time a word appears in the Torah will set the tone for its deepest spiritual meaning and energy. So I'm looking for the pasuk, which I'm not finding right now, so I'll find it in my notes as we go along. Here we go. Yeah, Bereshit, Kaf Hey. Okay, so Bereshit, the 25th parak, and the 25th pasuk of the 25th parak. And it says, this is talking about when he was born, and that he was hairy and red. And hairy and red share energetic properties. So if you remember, we were building our Parsha map of Yud K Vav K, right, on the right side, and Elohim on the left side. And we've been filling in details every week, expounding and explaining what these energies are, and that ultimately Geula is the synthesis and the integration of these two energies. And just to give like a 5-second overview, Yud K Vav K just being the energy of selfless, devoted, surrendered service, right? And Elohim being a powerful, assertive self and self-identity. And then both of those two energies being able to be used for service and loving devotion and connection with God, or the opposite, right? Both energies can go to an extreme of over-surrendering or an over-betul, the nullification of self, so that to such a shadow extent that we can't be in love because we have to have we have to be in love, right? And the overextending of the Elohim energy, which is to be so self-contained and running on self-power, that there isn't room for other, and there isn't room for relationship, not with God and not with another human being. Just as a side point, I'll wait a second for our street cleaners to pass. It's all about tikkun and tzfat. Cleaning up the pathways. Thank you. Okay, so I read an astonishing piece of Torah last night, which I didn't sleep much last night. I barely slept because my mind was just so engaged with this piece of Torah that I couldn't sleep. And it has to do, you'll see soon, with what we're talking about the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and the Elohim maps. But it was a piece of Torah from Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg, and he was talking about how Rebbe Akiva could have a conversation with the soul of anybody, but also anything, even inanimate objects. And he could, and what was the conversation? It was really more that he could make himself so betul, in other words, like get himself so out of the picture of his own need for things to look a certain way or be a certain way or have a certain outcome. So that's what we mean by betul. And he then would able to have a conversation with the soul of the person or of the object, whether next to him or from a distance. And Rabbi Ginsburg was teaching that we all have this ability, especially a Nefesh Israel, that we can have conversations with people's souls from a distance, but the prerequisite is to first put ourselves into a place of bitul, of nullification of self, so that there's no attachment of what am I going to benefit from this? What am I going to get out of this, right? Or I want to hear that soul say a certain thing to me, right? I have an agenda. When we can get to a clear place where the agenda is actually in service of this other soul, how may I be of service to you, soul? What is it that you need from my soul? Then we can literally hear what any, and I don't say this facetiously, I mean it really, what the table is saying, what the chair is saying, what another human being, lahavdil, obviously, is speaking. And what he gave over in his teaching is that we can hear their soul's song. We can hear their soul's melody. So it won't necessarily sound, not necessarily come across in words, but we will hear their soul. And we can receive it on an energetic level, through a wisdom level. It doesn't necessarily have, and it may be words. I was so excited by this that I couldn't sleep last night. Literally, I was just like, oh my gosh, wow. Okay, so I say this because it goes on our Elohim Yud-Kei Vav-Kei maps as, again, a tool of the surrendered self in the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Okay, so now back to hair. So on our maps, so on the Elohim side, of course, we're going to have hair and lots of hair, okay? Because, remember, Elohim as plurality, diversity, so we don't have one hair, we have lots of hair, right? And we have hair on different parts of our body, which we'll get to, but signifying different spiritual codes and different revelations. We have different colors of hair, right? Red, yellow, white, black. We have gray. We have all the blacks and the browns. And then we have texture. right? We have a coarse hair, we have fine hair, we have shape in the sense of we have straight hair, we have wavy hair, we have curly hair. So in Kabbalah, each one of these things, color, texture, shape, length, and where it shows up in our body and when it shows up in our body, in other words, how old are we, right, is going to be a reflection of our mochin, our consciousness. And understand, God bless you, that our whole spiritual journey can be witnessed and documented in the journey of our hair. Okay? So for example, because it shifts in consciousness, hair. For just to give a little example, so a baby is usually born bald, which is a particular state of consciousness, which we'll talk about. Or many babies, like my older daughter was born with a lot of hair, and then all that hair fell out, and then she was bald. And then she was born with black hair, which all fell out, and she was bald, and then her hair grew in very fine, blonde, light brown. And then her hair got darker as she got older, and okay, but it's right. Then then at 13 years old for a boy, right? 12 for a girl, but 13 years old for a boy. At 13 is significant. A boy starts to get hair on his lip, on his armpits. He gets, excuse me if it offends anybody, but he gets pubic hairs, and there's all kinds of halachas about when he is able to yotzei other people in mitzvahs, in other words, include others in the mitzvahs that he is chayav in, or incumbent to perform, and he can hold other people energetically. He has to be not only 13, which is of course the gematria of love and oneness, but he has to have a minimum of 3 hairs on his Brit Kodesh, right? Okay, which is, again, we're going to talk about why 3, why there, okay? But we're just giving like now a really like an overview of a map of the journey of our consciousness, and awakening consciousness can all be seen through our hair. Then there is our virginal hair. Then there's hair and what we do with it after a woman gets married, and we're going to talk about that Kabbalistically, right? What happens to, why do we cover hair Kabbalistically, right? What happens to our mochin, to our consciousness, to our soul in the covering of hair? Okay, and then many women, when they're pregnant, will have hormonal changes that affect the hair. And again, when women going through menopause. Now this is, we're talking about woman's journey, God bless you. From a man's, women will also have, at 12 years old, beginning to grow hair somewhat, now you say somewhat, in their armpits and in their reproductive area. Now again, I came across this unbelievable piece of Torah. Oh, I do really want to thank several people who really helped me with all these sources. Rabbi Dr. Hillel Ben David, Zachariah Goldman, who translated pieces of the Tameh HaMitzvot from the Ariya Kadosh, which I was able to use, which is beautiful. And Rabbi David Aaron, there was a lot that I got from him about Esav's journey with hair. So thank you, because we're all sharing the well springs of Torah. So what I would like to do is to start always, I love maps. So we'll start with some maps in your notes so that we can flesh everything out afterwards. And also you'll have maps, then you at home make your own. The idea always of Torah is written Torah and oral Torah. So the idea is always to take a piece of Torah and really make it your own. By journaling it, meditating on it, writing your own chidushim, applying it to you and your life. That's what we call the oral Torah. It's not just Rabbi Akiva in the old days. We're supposed to make oral Torah. Then the oral Torah is actually the realm of the feminine, right? Because we were given 9 measures of speech. Ask any husband, he'll tell you that's true. Okay, so we're going to begin with the word that the root word in Hebrew is hair, is se'al, and it's written sin, right? Which looks like a shin. It's just the dot is on the other side. Ayin resh. That is the root. Shin, ayin resh, or sin. It's just the same letter. We're just moving the dot, right? Yeah? Okay. So that word is se'al. Sin, ayin resh. Se'al. So I'm going to give you now a list of words in this hair journey that are all connected and have the same root, and we're going to unpack it afterwards and see why and what's the connection. So we have se'al, hair, and we have this word se'al showing up for the very first time in Bereshit Kaf Hey in regards to Esav's birth, that he was hairy and red. Then we have sha'al, a gate, same letters. We just move the dot, right? A gate conveys a passageway, right? Entering from one space or one consciousness to another. And it also conveys a narrowing, right? So a gateway is, in other words, let's say all the people are coming and then there's a gateway, so we're narrowing it into one path, right? Okay. And then we have shi'ul, which is all we did was add a little yudin or a chirik, but it's the same word. Shi'ul means a measurement, right? A shi'ul is a midah. It's a measurement of something. So again, this idea of constricting or limiting something to a particular amount in a particular space at a particular time. Okay. Any questions, just stop me along the way. Okay. Then sorry? Do I have a pen? Oh, I do, but you can look through my purse if you want. Okay. And then we have the word, again, same spelling, sin, ayin, yud, resh, se'il, a goat. Now, we have two goats in the story that Rivka brings and prepares the two goats, the two se'ils, okay, from the word se'al, hair. And we have, when else do we have two goats? When?
Yom Kippur.
Yeah, exactly. Se'il la korban and se'il la azazel, right? So again, echoing the story of hair and two goats. And then we have the goat skins this week. Right? When Esav dressed up as Yaakov, he puts goat, se'il. I'm sorry, excuse me, thank you. Yaakov dresses as Esav, thank you. And he puts the se'il, the goat skins, on his arms. In other words, to change his outer livushin from something that feels, it's not actually, but feels like Esav energy, even though his inner essence is Hakol Kol Yaakov. He's maintaining his inner essence, but he's dressing up in a different energy, the energy of se'al, of hair, of hairiness. Okay, then we have the word se'o, barley. Okay, se'o, barley. What's the connection between barley and hair? Well, when we have the barley omer between Pesach and Shavuot, we're forbidden to what? Cut our hair. Cut our hair, right? During the barley offering, we don't cut our hair.
Is that during the Omer?
Yes, the barley harvest is happening during the Omer between Pesach and Shavuot. Another connection, se'o, barley and hair. When the sota is suspected of adultery, what do we do to her hair? We uncover her hair, and she drinks barley water. Okay?
Why does she drink barley water?
Her hair is uncovered, and the Kohen takes Hashem, dissolves it in barley water, gives it to her to drink.
Why?
Oh, we're going to unpack all of it.
So,
This is just this, I love maps.
No, but what's the context of her?
What's the context of her? She's been suspected of adultery and being unfaithful to her husband. So again, there's a connection between hairiness and infidelity. There's a connection between hair and power, as in all of it: sexual power, prowess, might, ego, strength, identity, right? Okay, then we have the word ra'ash, resh ayin shin, right? Same letters, which means a destructive noise, right? Like chaotic energy and sound. Ra'ash, resh ayin shin.
What does it mean?
It's a destructive, chaotic, distracting noise.
What's the word for a
Hi,
non-distracting
people.
noise?
Sleep.
It's slil, beautiful,
Hmm?
beautiful, slil.
Real?
Slil, salul, something clear. Salul, you can feel it like crystal. It's like high and elevating. This is kind of energy. Rash. It sounds like it. Rash. And of course we have the word rasha. Same letters. Resh, shin, ayin. Rasha, or an evil doer. Right? A person who has, through their will and thought and speech and action, managed to cover over their light to a very great degree. As hair covers the O with an ayin and O with an aleph. Right? You understand that connection? There's O with an ayin, right? Skin, and hair covers the skin. But originally, the skin was just, and with Adam and Chava, it was pure light. So again, what we're talking about spiritually is hair, or this energy covering the O with an ayin and the O with an aleph, or skin and light. Okay? Are there any questions just in this part? Not spinning out from this, just this. This is just a beginning map.
The skin is spelled how?
Ayin resh vav.
Ayin resh vav is
Vav
skin.
is skin. And you, I'm so sorry. Ayin vav resh, right?
Ayin vav resh.
And light is aleph vav resh, O. And you can also see that the word O is within the word se'al, or se'ol, all of it. O, or skin, is in all of those words, in a 2-letter root word, sholish. Yeah? Clear, everybody? Okay. Which, by the way, in tikkun becomes el, to be awake, to be conscious. Ayin resh. El. So there's something about hair that can put us to sleep, and there's something about hair that can be empowering and wake us up, right? Because everything can be used in service of Hashem, right? Hair, baldness, the mixture, all of it. It's not that hair is bad. It's hair is an energy, and how do we channel it into service of Hashem? Baldness isn't bad. It's how do we channel that into service of Hashem? Okay, so we've already set a stage that there is something about hair, or din, which is the Elohim side of our map, which is the energy of constriction, of multitude, of separation, of concealment. Hair conceals parts of our skin, our head, our skull, wherever, our armpits, a face of a man. We'll talk about the beard afterwards. Okay, so hair has this energy of din, constriction, concealment, individuality, individual power, life force, and in its unrectified state of klipa. Again, because a klipa, or a shell, or a husk, is something that covers over the fruit. God bless you. And has to be rectified, right? God bless you. So it covers over the fruit, the pre. In other words, the fruit can be the soul, the fruit can be the skin, the body, the fruit can be consciousness, Okay? So when Esav is born, he is both hairy and red. So red is again, he's called Edom, right? Now we know of later another hairy red man. Does anyone know who that is? Yes, David HaMelech is also a red man, right? So by red, we are talking about the energy of Elohim, of Gvurot, right? Now, again, please keep your minds very fluid because it's never either or. It's always in relation to. So din is not a bad energy. It's a constriction and contraction in relation to, right? And then, so meaning there's going to be good times to constrict and contract and times that are not the right time to constrict and contract, right? Good times to spread out and times to gather in, right? It's all good. It's just when, how, where, who, okay? So now, the Mekubalim talk about hair being the psolet of the mochin. In other words, hair is the excess of consciousness that the keter, the crown, cannot contain, and it spills out through our hair. Okay, now, when we cut our hair, yes, hair is the psolet of our mochin. Psolet meaning the waste product. We'll get there. Of our mochin, in other words, of our chachma bina da'at, right? Of our consciousness. So much, why do we call it psolet? Because it has life force in it, but when we cut our hair, we don't feel pain because the life force has been so diluted that there's life force there, but it's not an active enough life force that when we cut, we don't feel any pain when we cut our hair or our fingernails, right? Psolet. Psolet means pe, samech, vav, lamed, taf. Psolet. Taf. It means like the you know, like if you have an orange and you peel off the peels, it's like the part that you don't, you're not going to eat, right? It protects the orange, but it's not the fruit. Yeah. Psolet has a slightly different connotation than klipa, but yes.
Interesting, when we pull it out, it hurts. When we get it out, that's pain.
Yes. Yes, we'll get there because we'll talk about the beard and we'll get there. There's so much, it's okay. Please God, may everything that needs to come down and through and over, come down and through and over. Okay, so Hashem's light is absorbed into our body through our hair, and so what we're understanding is that hair makes energy move both in and out of our body. It's a receptacle. It's like a tentacle. Okay? So what we're really saying is that it's a tzinor. It's a tube. It's a channel. All hairs are channels. So now we want to talk about what are we channeling? Positive energy of light, dark energy, when, how much, in, are we receiving it in, are we giving it out, right? But just to begin with that map, that our hair is moving energy both in and out of our body. So now we're gonna refine what energy do we want coming in, what energy do we want going out, and around who, and when, and okay? So we're just laying the foundation. Okay, so long hair in men, and now we're also going to differentiate that because we're Bina and men are Chachma, their connection to hair is different than ours. Their hair is different than ours energetically, and their need for hair or not hair on certain parts of their bodies is different than ours. because the work is different, right? They're rectifying Chachma and we're rectifying Bina. So we got different work to do with our hair as we do with our hearts and with our bodies and with our souls and with our speech. Our work is different than men's. I think the biggest mistake in relationships, well, my biggest mistake that I've ever made in every relationship with any man is to think they're like me and then try to do the work with them like they're another woman. And it's like, oh, right, I have to remember, like, oh, yeah, they're actually not me. Okay, so long hair in men, especially at the back of the neck, can cause them a disconnection between, because it's at the brain stem, and where the brain stem is getting joined to the body. In other words, the connection of body and spirit, body and soul, right? Or mochin, right? Chachma Bina Dat, Chabad, and the body. But, okay, again, we're just laying maps now. So, so much is there's so much Torah around hair that even Hashem is depicted through the Partsufim, or through the spiritual archetypes, right? Of course, Hashem is one and his name is one. But in order for us to be able to, we can never grasp Hashem, but grasp enough conceptually that we can be in relationship with Hashem, then Hashem is depicted anthropomorphically through certain partsufim, what we call, or faces or archetypes of energy, right? So at the crossing of the Yam Suf, whatever, I was laughing when I saw this. You'll understand why in a minute. It says that Hashem appeared at the crossing of the Yam Suf in the eyes of Bnei Israel as Zer Anpin, which is a young, mighty male warrior with black locks of curled hair. Sound familiar? And this is this image of Hashem at Yam Suf.
I'm sorry, the black
a young warrior, a male, strong, with black curls, long curls of black hair. This is the image of Zer Anpin. Is it vitally important?
It's funny. It's just funny that you're saying black curly hair, because that's very important. I have no idea why, because it's mentioned often in Shir Shirim.
This is from Shir Shirim.
Okay.
This is the Zohar on Shir Shirim. So thank you. Exactly. It says in Shir Shirim, again, it gives the image of God as the lover, as the young, beautiful lover, right? And it says that he has taltalim, right? Again, black curls, right? And each one of these things is specific, that it's long, that it's black, and that it's curls. Again, we're just laying road maps. We're going to unpack, please God, depending on the time, however much we can. Okay? So yes, this is the image from Shir Shirim of it being in relationship to Zer Anpin, right? Which is Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, right? The emotive, or our heart, or our character traits. So, and then I saw this beautiful Torah that it says the primordial Torah is written on the hairs of a man's peyot and beard.
Okay, say it again.
It's your picture of the Rebbe. The primordial Torah is written on the hairs of the peyot and the beard of a man. We'll get to a woman in a minute. Peyos.
What is written? The primordial Torah.
The primordial Torah. In other words, it means that there's a Torah that was written from black fire on white fire, and that is our Sefer Torah. But remember that before that, there was a Torah that God looked into and created all of creation from the Torah, which is essentially sound and light waves. Before it becomes into the forms of letters, it's sound and light waves that take on shapes of letters. It's okay. We'll talk about it after.
The sound and light waves emit from the people?
I can't hear you. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. The sound and light waves emit from the people?
No, they are encoded on the hairs of the peot and the beard of a man.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have the head, which is containing the brain, so it's hiding the wisdom. It's the ma'amal hasatum. All the hidden wisdom is hidden. Ma'amal means the saying, hasatum, the utterance, which is completely hidden and mysterious. In other words, wisdom that we are not yet able to access. It's so hidden and so deep and so mysterious. So that's inside Keter. And what the hair begins to do is express that wisdom through the sha'al, through the gate, to give it, to birth it into physical form in this world, consciousness, right, through the hairs. Again, every time we have a shift in consciousness, our hair changes. Our hair changes at birth, our hair changes at bar and bat mitzvah, our hair changes at marriage, our hair changes in pregnancy, our hair changes in old age, our hair changes before that in menopause for women. Our hair changes in color for the men, their beard, right? Just as our hair color also changes. Why do we have halachas that men are not allowed to dye their hair or their beard? Women are allowed to, but men are not allowed to. Again, why? Because what is going on with their beard that we do, what we want to give witness to, and I'll just give you one little hint of the figure of, again, the partsuf of Arech Anpin, right? Atik Yomin, the Ancient of Days, as having, you can imagine, a flowing white beard, right? A flowing white beard. That's the partsuf of the grandfather on the tree of life, of Keter, right? Infinite love, infinite chesed, infinite patience to hold whatever our mistakes are, whatever, our immaturity of consciousness, right? Okay, so there is a, going back to Rabbi Akiva and the four that go into Pardes, in other words, the journey of we're talking about maturing consciousness. That's what Pardes is about. It is about how do we tap into mature consciousness, okay? And out of four, only Rabbi Akiva comes in peace and leaves in peace, right? Now, one of the four is Acher, Elisha ben Abuya, okay? And when he comes out from his experience, he has such a strong experience of duality that it can't be that this is true and that's true when they contradict. It can't be. And it shatters his vessel, and he says, you know what? None of it's true. He becomes an apikoros. So the lashon in the Torah of him being an apikoros is he's katzatz hanetiot. He's uprooting the saplings. He goes to the Beit HaMikdash, and it's like a double, triple whammy. It's like Yom Kippur, Shabbos, in the Mikdash. He's really not doing great things. He's riding his horse after he's done some other not wonderful things. And then the Chachamim say about him that he was katzatz netiot. He was uprooting the saplings. Okay? What does that mean? It means that when a person's mochin, or consciousness, is just sprouting out, and somebody comes and damages this little gentle birth of consciousness, right? In other words, removes their emuna, removes their connection from God. This is called kotzetz hanetiot, right? And it says this is what happens when a man plucks out one beard hair, that he's kotzetz hanetiot. He's uprooting the saplings. Kuf tzadik sofit. No, kuf tzadik sofit. Yes. Hanetiot, the little saplings. Yeah, with a tet. Hey nun tet, yud ayin vav taf. Yeah. Yeah, like a netta. A netta is like a little bud, little sapling. Yeah. So much Torah. Okay, so what I would like to do now is, that's one map. Again, we're not even unpacking the maps now. We're just mapifying.
If he pulls it out, not if he shaves it, which is a different story.
That's a whole different story. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk. We're not allowed to uproot it. In other words, there's a cutting that happens, and we'll talk about who cuts when, where. Okay, sorry. Back to our soul maps.
Soul map.
Okay. Please, I'm so sorry. I can't remember what I'm going to say when I'm listening to the conversations in the background. Okay, so now we're going to just, again, build a map of stories about hair in Tanakh, in the Torah. And again, later we'll go back and we'll fill in each story. Yeah? Okay. So the first time hair appears on the scene, is that the right music? is that Esav is called Ish Se'ir. Ish Se'ir. That's his title. The hairy guy. He's the hairy guy. That means that it's such an integral part of his personality to be hairy. And we're going to talk about what does it mean to be hairy and what does it mean. And Yaakov is the Ish Halak. He's the smooth guy. Not as in like smooth moves, although I'm sure he had really smooth moves. But as in he's Halak. He's the Ish Tam, Yoshev Ohalim. He's smooth, right? And Esav is hairy. So again, what does smooth mean? Uncovered, vulnerable, revealed, not tricky, not trickery, right? Right? To be smooth, if something goes smoothly, it means there's no bumps, there's no twists, there's nothing hidden. What you see is what you get, right? Yeah?
It also says that we can choose what things seem to us, what they look like.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, he's called Esav, which comes from the word asui, he's made. In other words, he comes out and he's already looks like a man, like a adolescent. In other words, we were saying before that we get hair at the age of puberty, but he's already born looking like a man in the sense of his hair. So there's something about his consciousness, his power, his manliness and manhood, that he comes into the world already with that energy. He doesn't come in as a little smooth little baby, right? Right? Whereas Yaakov does. So the word Esav, if we switch the vav for a bet, we get Esav, or grass. Again, a hairiness, a grassiness, a growth. Yeah, is that clear? Esav with a vav at the end, and Esav with a bet at the end. So Esav with a vav at the end, asui, or prepared, like la'asot, a doer, right? As opposed to Yaakov, who's a beer, he's yoshev be'ohalim, he's sitting and learning in tents, right? Esav's out there, he's doing not such great things, by the way. But that's only because that was his free choice, right? And we get the mountain that Esav rules over, and what's the name of where he lives? Har Seir, hairy mountain. The hairy guy who lives on hairy mountain. Oh, to live on hairy mountain. Okay, so then in our tradition, we let the hair of a boy grow until, again, it's not a halacha, but it's a very strong minhag, until the boy is 3 years old. And then we have in Yiddish called an upsharon, from the English word to shear, as in shearing a sheep. Upsharon is Yiddish of an English word to shear or to shave, right? To cut the hair. In Hebrew, it's called a what? It's so beautiful. Chalaka, which has the word in it. Chalak. We smooth the boy. We take him from a hairiness into smoothness when he's 3 years old. Okay, the first sha'al, the first gateway of his change in consciousness is when he's 3, and it's the first time we do something with his. He went from baldness to hairiness for 3 years, and then at 3 years we begin to make a shift in consciousness from hairiness to smoothness. Okay?
Esav was born hairy.
Yeah. No, don't worry. We're going to get to Esav. We're just talking about now in our Jewish
Okay, so
unfolding.
What's the connection with that? Why do we do that to a 3-year-old?
Okay, so again, I'm going to just give little bullet points in our map because we're going to work with these maps. I don't know how long until we juice them for everything Hashem wants to give us. But we take that and we say, where else in the Torah do we wait 3 years?
Orla.
Da, 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 da. Orla. Now, when else do we have Orla?
Orla
The
is
breed.
when you plant the tree, but you're not allowed to pick its fruit for the first 3 years.
It's also a portion of when you make a circumcision.
Yes, and it has the word in it, ayin resh, skin. Skin. It is to, again, cut off the excess of something to reveal its true light. Right? Again, cut off the excess of something to reveal its true light. Why 3 years? This is a whole class, so forgive me, just each thing I'm just going to go like a bullet point, because we could have a whole class on Upsharon and Chalakah. God bless you, but we can't. So,
I think I heard that in some way you have a master list.
please ask me after because we're recording. Okay, so again, just to put in your own notes, okay? You can ask me questions. You can call me. I don't sleep these days. You can call me in the middle of the night. I don't know what's going on in my brain, but I just don't. So just to make yourselves a note, when do we see this word orla? Okay? This word orla, ayin, resh, lamed, he. When do we see it? Just to put in your notes. Okay. First 3 years that we don't eat the fruit of a tree, by the way, planted in Eretz Yisrael. We're not talking about fruit trees planted outside of Israel. This only applies in Israel because it's a particular level of consciousness that we don't have outside of Israel. Okay? It's an awareness of God and divine providence and no time and no nature and no space limiting us in any way. That's Eretz Yisrael consciousness. So we have that halacha in Eretz Yisrael. The next time we see Orla is at a Brit Milah, right? When a baby boy is circumcised, right? And it's to cut off the Orla, which is, again, a piece of skin, which is covering over the atara, the crown, the keter. Oh, wait, what? There's an upper keter and a lower keter. There's an upper crown covered with hair, and there's a lower crown covered with hair.
Whoa. Can anyone else just be in that space with me?
I am.
Whoa.
When the baby's born, it's not covered in hair.
No, it's
covered in
not.
skin.
It's covered with skin. So it's, again, a process of refining consciousness. By the time we die, we basically go back to being bald,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. In other words, we've gone through all these shifts in consciousness, all these shifts in our mochin. Our hair is always showing us what's going on in our mochin, in our consciousness. You can learn everything you need to know about what's happening to your hair. And by hair we mean texture, shape, color, length, covered, uncovered, cut, uncut, right? It's all going to tell us a story of the evolution of consciousness. Okay, so far so good?
Oh, yeah.
Keep breathing, because this is just the beginning. Yay! Okay.
And it's not like a question like I need an answer to, but I'm just like making an observation. So men are more hairier than women, and men have more taiva in the world than women do.
Yeah.
I mean, as personally speaking. So does that mean the more hairier the person, the more taiva they have?
Yes.
Oh.
That's exactly what it means.
It's a biological reason.
Okay, all right, hold on. Okay, all right, stay with me. Come back, come home. Okay. So we said, wait. Just let me just give the orlas put into your maps, okay? So we had that Moshe Rabbeinu was aral sfatayim. He had an orla on his mouth. Again, just put this in your notes, okay? There's another process of a shift in consciousness that Moshe Rabbeinu has an orla on his mouth. Then we have the mentioning of the orla on our heart. We have to circumcise our hearts in order to receive Mashiach, by the way, because it comes from Yeshayahu. We have to get a Brit Chadash, this is where, by the way, Christians get this idea of a New Testament, because it says there'll be a new Torah. That's why Christians say, oh, that means a New Testament. It's a bit of a misunderstanding, right? But it is true that it's a Brit Chadash, and it comes after we circumcise or remove the orla from our heart. And then we have the orla from the Brit Kodesh, and then we have the orla from our food. So in other words, we're fixing our speaking, our emotional connection, our physical relations, union connection.
Can you spell orla?
Ain Reish Lamed Hey. And our connection with food, and our connection with our hair, which is our connection to our consciousness. It all comes up in the different orlas, right? Orla of cutting the boy's hair after 3, orla of our heart before Mashiach comes, orla of our food and our eating, so we don't eat the fruit before 3 years, of fruit trees planted in Eretz Yisrael, because the fruit is the light, by the way. Vegetables is something different. Fruit means light, right? Puru urevu. That's the mitzvah of physical union. A pri, a fruit. Why also? Well, okay, whole other class. Okay, so, and then that's the orla part. Now we're going to go back to hair showing up in the Torah. So 13 years old, right? The gematria of love, ahava, the gematria of achad, one, unity. A boy starts to grow hair. Where? Where he speaks.
Where he feels.
Where he feels. Where he does. Chesed and Gvura, the armpits.
Cool.
I know. Like blow your mind, Torah. How cool is our Creator? And then where he is going to channel his creative energies and his energy of connection. Okay, so we're beginning to get more power, but he needed 13 years to first build up get his vessel all filled with light, get all his needs met, and go forward in love. 13. Ahava.
What does that say?
Bar mitzvah.
Oh no, don't.
Okay, we're going to get there, but in 1 second, we're momish going to get there. But the beard in a man in the payas, which we're going to talk about, is all about rachamim, and we do that same process in our rechem.
Oh, on our rechem?
In our rechem. In other words, it's the energy. It's the energy. We're going to get there. Sorry. Okay, keep going. Okay. The next time we have, sorry, I'm doing it out of order because again, I was up all night with these notes. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to take you one step backwards and say the first time hair shows up in the Torah, but it's not used with the word se'al, is actually one of my favorite pieces of Torah in the entire world. And it's talking about, this is, there's a Gemara Eruvin, Kuf Amud Bet, and it talks about that after the chet of Adam and Chava, 10 klalot, or 10, I don't like the word curse, so 10 klalot from the word kilkul, 10 misalignments come down.
But literally what the curses.
Yeah, I know, it doesn't resonate with me. Because of the Eitz Hadat. And one of them, it says that she must cover like one in mourning. Okay? And Rashi says there, it'll be embarrassing for her to go about with her hair uncovered. And there's just something about her hair that changes, much like covering over with the fig leaves, right? It becomes something about her hair now, which becomes an energy that she has to learn how to play with and work with. Okay, but this is literally one of my favorite pieces of Torah, which is that it says Hashem puts Adam to sleep, ataudema, vayiven, and he builds from the man's side his ezer kenegdo, vayiven, and he builds. So the Zohar says, why use the word vayiven, he builds, and not vayitzor, and he formed, right? Like a yetzirah. Why did he build Chava? What was this idea of building Chava from the side of a man? And then the answer is this really strange answer, and it says, oh, yeah, he built her from his side, which is an allusion to he builds Bina from Chachma. He takes Chachma and draws out from the side of Chachma Bina, the woman, right? But wait, there's so much more. It says, oh, you know what Vayiven means? It means to braid. And what was he braiding? He braided Chava's hair before he brought her to the chuppah with Adam. This is the first mention of hair in the Torah.
Hashem braided her hair?
Hashem braided Chava's hair before he brings her to the chuppah in order to beautify her in Adam's eyes. It's one of my favorite Torahs. My whole body has like goosebumps from this Torah. It's so beautiful. What does that mean? Oh. Somebody, sorry, for you at home, somebody just showed us her beautiful braid under her hair covering. That is literally what the Arizal teaches, that how a woman should cover her hair. That it should be a braid and then covered. It should be long, it should be braided, and it should be covered. We'll get to all of it. But right on, sister.
Wait, this is only men.
This is women, only women. Men's hair is different than women's hair because our energies are different and our tikkun is totally different. With them, we're trying to get rid of as much of their hair as possible. With us, we're trying to keep our hair and work with it. Different. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. This is just the map right now of where hair shows up in Torah. Okay? So the first mention of hair is this beautiful piece of Torah that Hashem opens up Adam's chachma, and from within his own chachma draws forth Bina, which becomes a reflective mirror for him of his own self, which is going to build him, boneh. Right? The whole idea of a woman is to be an ezel, kenegdo, a mirror to help him, opposite him. It's him. We're him. made from him, drawn out from his insides. So we're his insides.
You come from his left side?
We come from, yes, the woman is the left. No, we come from, he's Chachma, and we're drawn out through the left to become the Bina, the left side.
So, but what was it, which rib was it taken from, the left or the right?
The 13th rib.
I would imagine that it's from the left because it's being, I don't know, if it's being drawn out this way, then we would be on his right. So I imagine that it was drawn out this way, but like going through the Chachma, but it's actually from whatever. Okay, is that so far everybody's okay? Because we're going deeper, higher. Okay. One of my absolute favorite pieces of Torah.
And what is the Hebrew word for braiding?
Vayiven. Well, it's not. That's what's so beautiful. Vayiven literally means to build. And now, this is so crazy. Vav Yud Bet Nun Sofit. Now it gets deeper and more beautiful. Vayiven is the same letters as Bina, right? Vayiven.
Oh.
Vayiven, to build, Bina. We're the builder.
Okay.
We're the builder. We are his insides. In other words, Hashem took out his insides. He opened his Chachma, saw what. So you understand that every Bina vessel, every woman, is made to fit perfectly with her man's Chachma. Because she comes from his Chachma.
Oh my goodness. So we're like our husband.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear what Nicole said? We are the hair of our husbands. Hold on. What? Okay. There's more. Just when you thought, if you order now, you also get. Hilchos Shabbos, the Isur of braiding on Shabbos comes from this piece of Torah of building, that to braid, what is a braid? How many strands in a classic braid? Three. Chachma Bina Da'at. Oh, what? Why do we braid the challah? What?
A three cord braid is hard to break.
Yes, but it's specifically the bread of the shape. Why do we not braid during the week? Because the Eitz HaDa'at was Erev Shabbos, and the first union was Erev Shabbos, and the rectifying and the fixing of the chuppah where she's in braids, and what that means to have Chachma Bina Da'at is connection. And by the way, Da'at is also physical connection. Physical marital union is called Da'at. Ve'adam yada et chava ishto. It is to know on every level, to experience on the level of will, on thought, of speech, of action, and of body, all in harmony. Okay, hold on, we're not done. Okay, so then we get to Korach. What is Korach? What does Karachat mean in Hebrew?
Bald.
The bald guy. Oh, so there's something spiritually about him being bald, and what his complaint was. Okay? In other words, he was meant to be a makabel, but he wanted to be a mashpia. Korach. Okay? He was meant to be a receiver, a Levi, but he wanted to be a Kohen, the mashpia. And that's what happened. It was a very hairy situation. Oh, okay. But so we're going to talk about that. And why is Karachat connected to Kerach, which means what? Ice, coldness, as opposed to being hairy and warm and hot and warm and hot-blooded. And baldness is to be, first of all, literally physically cold without the protective layer. It's to be exposed, right? And it is to be vulnerable. And it's to be Edom, he's the hairy guy, he's red, he's fiery, right? The opposite is to be blue, literally blue with cold, right? But we're talking about energy spectrums of light here, okay? So far, so good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's freaking me out. I'm just thinking about people I know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Blood is royalty.
Yeah.
Blood is a nickname for royalty.
Yes. Everything we are inside us, by the way, is red and blue, and then the spectrum. But that's another class.
We're going over another 15. We're already over 15 minutes. Can I mean, it's all up to everybody, but can I say another 15 minutes and then we're pushing?
So then
then
then what we'll just do is make a roadmap because we'll just keep in the weeks coming, or we'll talk about it when the film is off. But yeah, so just remind me.
Next
So
week, part 2.
so now part 2 of 10 maybe. I don't know. But okay. So let's just finish this map though of where hair shows up in Torah. Okay. So we have Korach, right? And the whole fight began because Moshe said that the Levim had to shave all the hair of their body, including their eyebrows, including all the hair of their body, in order to enter Avodat Hashem, right?
Cohen's or the Levim?
The Levim. Later also we'll talk about the Kohanim. Right now we're talking about the Levim. And Korach was very offended by that because, again, if hair is might and power, it was seen that Moshe was trying to strip them of their power so he could have all the power. That's what the rebellion was about. Okay? It was also about that he wanted to be a mashpia and not a makabel, because the perception that the makabel, like a woman, is weaker. Okay? So again, we're just laying roadmaps right now. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of this story of Korach, right, there's one of his followers is called On ben Peled. And they're going to get On, okay, to join, that he should join in the rebellion. And his wife saves him. How does she save him? She sits in the opening of her tent and she uncovers her hair. And she's brushing her hair. And they're like, whoa, we can't go near that. For a million reasons. Not because it's very beautiful, because it's also powerful. Because, again, also, her hair is the chachma of her husband. And she uses her hair in this holy way that seems not sanua, which is really the most sanua thing, to protect her husband's chachma. And they go away. And she keeps him, his chachma, pure by what she does, which looks not tznius, but it's like the ultimate tzniut. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Then, and in that story, we have this whole story of the Levim being shaved in order to enter into Avoda. Okay, again, just these are just roadmaps. Okay? Roadmaps. Hold on. Roadmaps. Okay, fine, we're going to do this. The Levim. It has to do with the rectification of the chet of the Egel HaZahav. And again, because Zahav coming from the left side, the same side as Din, the same side as hair.
So there was no
gold.
Din on the Levi.
There was, well, they did not participate, okay? But they still had to go through a purification process of having any dinim from that story removed from them so that they could be in a perfect union with Hashem.
Does that mean that the hair could attract people that was surrounding them?
Yes.
Boom.
This is also one of the reasons why a man is allowed in halacha to grow his head hair long, but not so long or thick that it will make a chatzitza between his head tefillin, either on the front or the back. A separation. Oh.
So that means ponytails are usher for men.
I'm not going to go there. I'm not a posek. I'm just saying halachically, the idea is to not have hair long or thick enough that it creates a chatzitza between the tefillin shel rosh, either here or here. Ask your local rabbi.
LOR.
Okay, so I just want to make a connection also between the word chalak, to be smooth, and chelek. The Leviim became chelek Hashem. They became the inheritance, the portion of God. Chelek, so to divide, yes. Chalak, which is the word chalaka, to cut a boy's hair.
How is it spelled?
Chet lamed kuf.
Chalek and chalek. It's the same?
Chalak, smooth, and chelek, a portion and inheritance.
From lechalech to separate to divine.
Yeah.
So when we cut a boy's hair.
Yeah, no, wait, sorry. We're just doing roadmaps because I see we're not gonna unpack any of it today. So now today we'll just do the map. So where else in Torah do we deal with hair? So we have the what we said before, the uncovering of the sota's hair when she's suspected of adultery, and in connection with that, the mitzvah of covering our hair when we get married, and again, because we are made from our husband's chachma, we become our husband's bina, and it is to protect his chachma, because it's very strong, beautiful energy. And by the way, this begins to happen under the chuppah, which is why some poskim hold that already after the chuppah, even before they've been together fully in spiritual of course, but physical union, many kallas go and cover their hair after the chuppah, even before they've been together. First of all, because there's been a chadar yichud, so there's been a yichud on the level of kiss, which is actually a higher yichud than the level of bodies. But also that just under the chuppah itself, she undergoes an energetic, their neshama gets reunited, their chachma and bina get reunited. And da'as is, of course, when they take it into the full, first on the cheder yichud, das elyon, they kiss. And then that evening, if she's tahor, a full das connection, a full physical union. And then it's the chachma bina da'at being fully reformed into one thing on the wedding night. Yeah, I know. Beautiful, right? Okay, so when she betrays that bond, she uncovers her hair as if to say, like, have you disconnected the Bina Chachma connection between you and your husband? God forbid. Okay, so then we have the what we said. We talked about the two goats in this parsha that Rivka cooks and prepares. Again, that hair, they're hairy. The hair is placed, the hairy skins placed on Yaakov this week, which is to change his levushim, right? Change his outer being in this world, how he moves through the world in a hairy way, right? In other words, a more powerful, a more sly, a more self-identified. If we want to call it more receiving of self, right? Inside, he's. We'll get to that. Okay. Oh, then we have Avshalom. No, backwards. Sorry. We have Batsheva, and it says that she was washing her hair on her roof, and that she actually it was surrounded by a towel so that nobody could see her hair, even though she was alone and she was single. Like, there was understanding that hair was such a powerful energy that each woman's hair is so deeply connected to her husband's chachma. And then Oh, I forget what happened. It was an arrow. There was an arrow. No. Sorry, please, no. I'm talking about Al Pia Zohar. It was a bird, or I forget exactly what happened, but her towel got ripped down by a spear or by a bird. I'll look it up. And her towel fell, and he saw her hair, and because he saw her hair, he misunderstood that it meant that she was really his Bina, and that Hashem caused the towel to fall because it was a sign that it was the right time for him to take her as his wife. Okay, I know, we'll just keep going. And then Avshalom, his son, David HaMelech's son, because he has to have now a fixing around hair because of his mistake around hair, and he gets a fixing through hair, that Avshalom, his son, grows his hair super, super long, right? And Avshalom tries to take David's kingdom from him, the same as David tried to take Bathsheba from Uriah, right? And then Avshalom dies because his hair gets tangled in the trees. Again, we're going to unpack all of this. This is just road maps. These are just road maps. Okay? Then we have the Nazir, right? The Nazarite, the Nazir, who has a very interesting connection to hair. The first one, right, he comes from Shevet Dan, which sounds like din. So it's some kind of fixing of judgment, right? So much does he fix judgment, he takes a lion and he kills it with his bare hands. And the lion, this carcass of the lion gets filled with honey, right? From Devorah, Dibur. He makes a sweetening of connection of words, right? You know what I'm talking about? You guys know what I'm talking about? The Shimshon, with his bare hands, he killed a lion, and then the carcass of the lion became a honeycomb for a bee's nest. And the whole lion became filled with honey. But that is reminiscent of the whole process of a Nazir. So again, 3 things that a Nazir takes upon himself: not to drink wine or grape juice or eat grapes or raisins or anything connected with grapes whatsoever. Why? Grapes and wine has to, wine is nichnas, yain yotze sod, right? It is rectifying speech, what we choose to say or conceal, and when and how. But also wine or grape juice is always used on the level of kiddushin, when we are joining the masculine and the feminine and elevating, right? Shabbat HaMalkah, to the 6 days of the week, a husband and wife under the chuppah, right? So he's now saying, I need a rectification in connection, so I'm now going to go to the total other side of self-nullification in order to fix and work on myself, and then come back into union. So that's part of what he's doing. And the third thing is to not touch a dead body. Okay, a Nazir cannot, again, he's trying to fix connection, and death is the ultimate disconnection. So he's trying to figure out how to have holy connection. So he wants to stay away from anything that causes disconnection. Okay? And of course, he takes upon himself to not only not cut his hair, he's allowed to wash it, but he's not allowed to brush it, because brushing it can pull out hairs. Okay, but we'll say again, I'm so sorry, because really each one of these is a class, so I just want to give you guys a map. Then we have kimchit, right? But you know, before we, okay, kimchit, you hear the word in there, kam or lekayem, to build again, right? And again it says, It says that she merited to have Kohanim Gedolim come out through her, and the Gemara says, why did she merit this? Kimchit. She's from the Mishnah Gemara. It says, why did she merit to have Kohanim Gedolim come out from her? It says, because the beams of her house never saw her hair. Kimchit. Yeah.
The beams of her
House never saw her hair. So again,
She had servants to hold it down.
again, I just want to make a connection again between, there's always a connection between the beams or the structure of building something and hair, right? Hair and bina, hair and vayiven, hair, that the beams of her house, which is the structure of building and keeping the building going, it all has to do with her hair.
Wow. It has to do with. Sorry.
Yeah, we like wows. Wows are good.
Meaning her, who is she? Her hair represents her building.
Yes.
And that she actually keeps frame of, like, that her walls don't even know where it's coming from. Like that there's like a certain quiet, a certain sniut that, like, meaning that a woman could be like possibly the neck of her husband. She's like tells the head where to go, but the head is like what gets all this like honor, so to say, but and she's refraining from getting that honor, which is like covering her hair, like it's like covering the walls, like the walls don't actually know that she's the one that built her walls. She is the building.
She's the building. That's exactly what it is.
She's
She is the building, and she's the force of building. And she begins to get that energy under the chuppah. Okay, wait. We're just doing the map. And then we have Rabbi Elazar, who, if you remember, his he in the Sanhedrin, they questioned his wisdom because he was so young, although he was so wise. And Hashem makes a nest. This is from the Haggadah of Pesach, right? That overnight he turns completely white, even though he was a young man. But Hashem makes a nest that he looks like this wise man with a long white beard and, long white payas overnight, so that people will receive his chokhmah. Okay? This is, yeah.
Also, like biologically, the white hair.
Yeah, I know. We're up for time. Okay, so, wait. I need 3 minutes for this last map. Literally. No. If we don't interrupt, we're just writing it into the map code. Okay. So I just made a little code here of cut, don't cut, cover, uncover. So we're going to talk about times we cut hair, we don't cut hair, we cover hair, and we don't uncover hair. Again, just a map. Is that okay? All right? So, go. All right. The halacha is a king in Am Yisrael must cut their hair every day.
Whoa. I have no idea what that means.
I know, because it's a map.
In their body?
The hair. They're on their head every day.
The beard also?
No, mamash, not their beard.
Like just like a snip, like a.
Just again, we're going to talk about spiritually what it means, but in other words, okay, fine, I'll give you guys one little taste. Understand what it means is that their mochin, their consciousness, has to be purified and kept in alignment every day. It can't be allowed to go wild, and right, it has to be perfectly maintained, because they are the vessel for the collective soul of Am Yisrael. They are the woman, they're the malchut, right? They are the receptacle and the vessel of the chachma of the whole Jewish nation, of the collected Jewish soul. Okay. Remember we said the Levium get totally shaved, right, before entering into the Avoda and the Mikdash. Shimshon had 7 braids of hair. You can imagine why 7.
Are they braids or dreads?
They were, dreads. They were called braids, though, specifically called braids. Again, the idea of the braid of the balancing, always of
How many?
7. He had 7 braids, which of course is 21.
Strands.
Strands, whatever, but not really strands because each braid was like 3 parts. But again, remembering that the braid is always the Chachma Bina Dat, the Chesed Gvura Tiferet. It's always the middle channel, right? The reconnection, intimacy, reunification, the middle channel, always, right? Right, left, center. So it's always while we have the 3 in the braiding. Coming back to center, to health, to harmony, to connection, to synthesis, right? The balance of giving and receiving, the balance of male and feminine, masculine and feminine, sorry. The balancing of self-assertion and self-surrender, all of it is the middle column. That's what we're doing, about the 3s all the time. Okay, we'll say more, but and when we talked about the halakha, about the cutting at the age of 3 for the boys, and now who else has to cut or shave all their hair? A metzora, a leper, as part of the fixing process of misconnection through speech, disconnection, right, in relationships, right, using speech to disconnect, and has to go through a whole talich of being taken out of the camp and having to experience disconnection in a very exaggerated way. Part of the healing of being allowed back in is that all his hair has to be shaved, again from his whole body. Okay, so that's the metzora. So we're talking about the cutting of hair. Okay, now on the side, I literally need 2 minutes. On
A
the
3-year-old gets his hair cut through somebody who has leprosy, or no?
Oh no connection.
Oh.
No connection. Just times in our unfolding of consciousness in our Jewish lifetime.
Has leprosy, and he does teshuva, he has to shave his whole body.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, like why, removal of hair. It is, again, please, I'm so sorry, it's just a map, but ideally, according to the Ari, to the Zohar, again, please understand there's a difference between men's hair and women's hair, what it does spiritually and what it does. So for men, not for women, men need to shave off all the hair from their head, but not their payas and not their beard. Just put that in your roadmap. We'll talk about why. That essentially on one foot, hair for women is a good thing. It's a vessel. It's a channel for receiving shefa. It's a channel for receiving Hashem's Or Ein Sof. But we always want it to be in harmonious, peaceful connection. That's why a woman should keep her hair. She should have long hair, but she should braid it so that it's the energy of Gvura, of Din, which is what we need to hold Shefa, but it is contained in the balance of the 3, of the harmony of health, of connection, of a balance of giving and receiving, a balance of masculine and feminine.
And does that mean only the head hair, or do you mean like every part?
For woman or man?
Woman and men.
No, women. So the oh God, this, okay.
Should I grow out my leg hair?
No. No. I'm saying you can do whatever you want to do, but there's no halacha in women. There's no halachic dictate to grow or not grow any other hair on your body.
Okay.
There is a really amazing piece of Torah that I saw that said classically Jewish women did not have a lot of armpit hair or pubic hair. Again, from Zohar, we'll talk about why. Doesn't matter, right? I mean, it matters. Everything matters, but not right now. Okay, sorry. We're just going to the map. So don't cut. We're just saying who doesn't cut hair. The Nazir doesn't cut until the end of his vow is finished. We don't cut hair during Sfiras HaOmer. A person, God forbid, in Avelut or mourning does not cut their hair. Again, we're going to look at why all this is, you know. We don't cut the hair of a boy before he's 3 years old. So I think we kind of covered the basic map. That's just a map.
We mean the uncovered?
Oh, so the uncovering, again, we said, is the sota, right, when she's suspected of adultery.
What if she's not an adulteress? How does she ever rectify that she was uncovered? That
She shouldn't have asked the Deacon sense.
she shouldn't have revealed
It's a whole, that's, again, a whole class, a whole Torah.
rectification on an
But what
uncovered.
happened on her, right? And we get, again, we talked about On ben Pelad's wife uncovering her hair in order to save her husband's Kedusha. So it's, again, there are, it's something called Eit Lasot Lashem. Sometimes we have to break Torah to fulfill Hashem's will. And I know that's a tricky Torah, and I'm sorry it's on camera. Please do not try this at home, kids.
Same with the oral Torah. We're not allowed to write down the oral Torah, but Rabbi Yehuda Nasi had to write the oral Torah down because we got when we were exiled.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and then just to put on your roadmap, why do we cover? And for women, it's about covering hair, and for men, it's about covering their head. So even a bald man wears a kippah, right? It's not about covering their hair so much as it's about covering their head. For us, it's specifically covering our hair. So we'll talk about the difference between covering a head and covering a hair, and a bald woman, and why does she or does she not have to cover her hair or not cover her hair? We'll talk about that in halacha. Thank you. And then also all the halachas around a man walking a certain amount of amot with their head uncovered or covered. Why? What are the halachas around that? And why don't women have that? In other words, if you're in your house, it's not. We're talking about kimchit. That's a very beautiful high level, but it's not halacha, right? Halacha, you could walk around your house with your hair uncovered, but again, why are men not allowed to go a certain distance with their head uncovered, and we are? So that is the roadmap for today. It's just a roadmap, and I guess we'll finish, turn off the cameras and the phones, and then talk about when we want to do part 2.